I guess you could say Todd is a lot like Bruce Wayne. It's not who he is underneath, but what he does that defines him. Here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse. Batman Begins Batman. Bruce Wayne travels to the Far East, where he's trained in the martial arts by the member of the League of Shadows. When Deckard reveals the League's purpose, Wayne returns to Gotham City intent on cleaning up the city without resorting to murder. Luckily for us, the cowl isn't made of brittle graphite, although it's probably still not a good idea to be hitting this plastic figure with a hammer. Let's take, though, the tape measure and see how tall the new Batman Begins Batman stands. We're also going to be bringing in a couple of Batman in shortly for comparisons, but in the meantime, yeah, he's going to be about 7¼ inches in height, or roughly 18 centimeters tall. As for a couple of other costumed characters, here's what Batman looks like with the Dark Knight Trilogy Batman. Yeah, though at the time that this guy got released, unfortunately they were still using plastic capes, so he's relegated into plastic capes. I'm glad, though, that we waited the while that we did, because the Batman Begins Batman is sporting now a fabric cape. Boy, does ever look nice. What also looks nice, though, is that we also did get ourselves a Batman Begins Scarecrow. Really, when you think about it, though, we didn't get a whole lot of other Batman Begins characters. We are also, though, getting a Platinum Edition release of this guy right here, just sporting the suit and wearing the regular sack mask, which we will be looking at in an upcoming review. Outside of that, though, really, when you think about it, there's no real other characters that we've gotten from Batman Begins. I do hope, though, at some point we get ourselves a Liam Neeson's Deckard, or maybe the imposter Ra's al Ghul. That would certainly be nice as well. Not that this guy belongs at all in this universe, at least he doesn't just yet, but here's also what the figure, just because I've only just recently looked at him as well. Here's what he also looks like with the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman. Fails Batman. Doesn't do too bad for himself when it comes to accessories. The figure, first of all, does come included with a display stand. What? You're not going to look at the trading card first? No, I wanted to mix things up just a little bit to keep you guys on your toes. Yeah, speaking of toes, though, the toes and all the rest of Batman's feet can actually attach onto the neighboring peg. And backing up even further from that, the figure does also have the branding DC logo down. Psst, boy, we're all doing things backwards this review around. The display stand itself actually does look like it's a little bit lighter of a color. I'm just going to grab one off to the side here. You can see. Yeah, I always mention this from time to time that sometimes the plastics do change and it does result in a slightly more lighter black display stand. On that, though, they're exactly the same build of I was going to say build of body, but clearly it's not a body this time around. The same make of mold. The figure now, going back to the trading card, does come included with one that actually is the poster art of Batman Begins. At one point, though, I had this poster. I also had a couple of ones from The Dark Knight. Just mixing things around in my collection space in my office, I've sort of now moved around some of the posters, and I have retired a couple of these Batman Begins posters. I still have a Joker one from Dark Knight. I don't know if I'm still going to keep that one up or I'm going to change that at some point. Does anybody really care? Nobody really cares. I do hope, though, that you care that on the back of this, the real name, though, listed is Bruce Wayne, in case you didn't already know that. The read-up at least has more to do with Batman Begins, and it's not just some generic read-up about Bruce Wayne in general. Put the card off to the side. The figure does also come included with some swappable hands. You may already take note, though, that the figure does have a closed fist on one side, a gripping hand on the other. That is the way that he came out of the packaging. Technically, though, he does also come included with another closed fist that would be going on the adjacent end of his body. So it would be the mirror flip to this one. Not really, though, on the other mirror flip, but the figure does also come included with a hand with multiple batarangs. Don't try to pull any of these out, by the way. They're all molded to the hand. I do actually like that they included a batarang hand like this. Now, don't worry, though. He does have just a standalone version of the batarang, too. So if you don't like variety like this, he has just one of them to work with. It's kind of neat, too, because not only can he use these as weapons, but if he has them in between his fingers like this, he can sort of use it for close contact. Don't worry, though, you're not going to be making much contact with your skin. These don't hurt at all. I mean, I guess if you keep consistently doing this, stop that. Yeah, eventually it may just hurt. The figure does also come included, as already mentioned, the regular batarang. Which, to look at this batarang and then look at the slightly smaller ones, Batman actually had, I think, a couple of different sizes of the batarang. So this one is clearly a little bit. It's the bigger boy of the other batarangs. This one doesn't fold up at all. I mean, it does fold up, but it's not going to go back the way it was. You've just essentially just broken your batarang. Congratulations. You just broke your batarang. Everybody, look, everybody, this guy just broke his bat. No, stop that. This batarang does, though, fit into his hands. With the hand that he has right now, basically just take yourself the batarang. This hand, by the way, is going to do double duties, because not only is it going to be holding the following accessory, which does fit in his hand pretty good, but it's also going to be holding his grapple gun. Wait, what? He comes in with a grapple gun? Yeah, he does. The actual grapple gun, unfortunately, though, doesn't have much in the way of paint. what they've only really done is just molded on in the gold plastic, and then I guess they've just called it a day. They've packed up shop, they turn off the lights for the day, and they've all left the factory. Somebody right now is with a black paintbrush saying, hey guys, I thought we were going to be painting these things, and everybody's already gone. They're gone to the pubs and gone drinking, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, the actual grapple gun unfortunately doesn't have much in the way of real paint, but it does though fit into his hands. So again, we can go ahead and go back to the same hand well. I mean, obviously we're not going to be changing things at all when it comes to the hands. Just get yourself the grapple gun, fit into his hand. From time to time though, it may pop off the peg. There we go. Just pop it back into his, there we go. And now Batman can be displayed with the grapple gun. You could probably, admittingly do a lot better of a job than I just did. I don't want to say that I phoned it in like the paint department, but I probably could have admittingly done a little bit better of a job than I just did. Anyways, let's go ahead and take the grapple gun and move it off to the side. Let's get a closer look at Batman Begins Batman, which I will admit is the better of the two better costumes. Between this one and the Dark Knight Returns and the Dark Knight Rises, essentially really this, I know like the Batman basically has a very similar, I think they may have really even tweaked it a couple of times, just tweaked a few little small details between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. When really, though, when you're looking at the two bodies, I actually prefer the Batman Begins because it's a little more seamless. It has less mobility. I know that's one of the things that Bruce Wayne mentions at the very beginning to Lucius Fox. He needs more mobility. He can't still, even though he can move a lot better than Michael Keaton's Batman, he doesn't have, though, the mobility until eventually he adopts this suit here. It's just too fragmented for me, made up of too many different various panels. I like the seamless look of a more rubber suit, so I like the Batman Begins body just a little bit more. Some may like the look of Nolan's cowl. I mean, it makes for certainly a much smaller mouthpiece when it comes to Batman. And yet, for such a small opening for his mouth, he certainly does make quite a bat noise. The head sculpt does look quite a lot like him. I mean, I would imagine, though, if we do eventually get ourselves, I think we did get ourselves a Bruce Wayne, but it was the Bruce Wayne from Dark Knight. I would, though, imagine, even though I don't have yet that figure, I really should track that one down. It's a nice looking figure, even though, again, it's using the Dark Knight body. I would think, though, that you probably would be able to detach this head and swap it out with that Bruce Wayne if you wanted to have an uncowled Bruce Wayne. And also, too, when we eventually look at the Scarecrow, the Platinum Edition, you could also use that Batman, too. And I would imagine borrow off the head and use it within the suited body. Why am I pointing over here? It's technically over there. I haven't yet opened it. For the rest of the Batman's body, though, it's sticking more to the matte black, which is actually one thing I really like about the suit. It's more, again, like seamless. So while it still has the bat emblem across the front there, I mean, it doesn't really show necessarily that this suit's made of many panels. It's actually just kind of one consistent suit. We sort of see Batman also spraying across it. I think we've also assumed that what he's spraying across it is to mask his heat signature. It's not just concealing it because he wants everything to look black. Everything basically on this figure is black, although there are some variances to that. So while the majority of his body is being made of the matte black plastic, they've gone then in there and they've painted off the gauntlets. They've also painted down below the boots in a more shinier black paint. So it does break it up rather nicely. What also does break it up nicely, though, is now he also has the gold utility belt, which I gotta admit does look nice. Doesn't hold anything, obviously, but it does have sort of suggested pockets that you would think that Batman would probably have some ball bearings in there, some other bat bombs, gas capsules, not really much of anything else. And of course, I think in the movie, he would have attached essentially the grapple gun on the back of it, but there's no real place to attach these. I guess they probably, considering that the cape is covering it and all, had they maybe put a hole right here, maybe they put a very small peg. I mean, am I wishful thinking by now? They could have found a place to maybe attach this on the back of his body. Okay, let's talk a little bit about his fabric cape. The fabric cape actually isn't that much different from the one that we got from Michael Keaton's. In fact, actually, I'm just going to grab Michael Keaton's cape. It's a similar kind of smooth material, yet the difference, though, is not just the case that this one is a lot wider of a cape to get that wingspan going, but this one also doesn't have the pockets. Because it doesn't have the pockets, obviously, it now benefits from having a wire built into the frame of it. The wire is only really running on this side and on this side here. There's no wire in the middle. I really don't feel it necessarily needs it either. So if you wanted to like to have dynamic poses for your character, you can certainly do that. I mean, I'm not phoning it in, but just to kind of show you guys, you can do some manipulation for the cape. So you want to have Batman's cape kind of looking like it's blowing in the wind, you can pull that off. Speaking of the cape, though, one thing I couldn't help but, though, notice when it came to my release is getting him out of the packaging. I noticed that there were these line marks right here. I don't know if that's left behind from the zip ties, the little ties, of course, that keep figures into their plastic prisons. There's a line right here, and oh no, wouldn't you know it, there's a line right here as well. I think I might be able to go in there and clean this, but I kind of wanted to leave it the way it was just to show you guys that out of packaging, there was a little problem with my cape. Hopefully there's no problems with yours. For the figure's articulation, though, Batman does have surprisingly more mobility than you would think in his head. The head, in fact, does rotate all the way around. You can have the bat head looking up and looking down, and you can also move it back and forth as well. The upper torso for Batman does have a full rotation via the ball joint. Further from that, though, the figure does also have a ball joint at the base of the abdomen. Yeah, so you can also move that all the way around as well. The figure's arms, I wouldn't say normally would be able to rotate easily all the way around. He does technically have a shoulder pad, but the shoulder pad is attached here. So instead of not having it here, where that obviously would get in the way of things, having it where they've placed it at least allows the arm to rotate all the way around. Hinging the arm outward, though, you may kind of want to go in there first, lift the shoulder pad up, and then Batman would at least be able to pull off a 90-degree angle bend. The figure does also have a swivel in the bicep. Would you also believe Batman does have a double hinge in his elbow? Hands rotate all the way around. Skipping over, obviously, the abdomen, because we've already had a look at that. Batman's legs seem to be on ratcheted joints again, so you can get about that far of a splits for Batman's legs. Ouch! The legs, yeah, move forward. Or do you also believe they also go back? They only go back about that far, though. He hits the back of his bat behind. The figure does have a little bit of a swivel at the top of the thigh. Not much, though. Double hinge on the knee. Not much really in the way of the articulation here for the calf, because like the boot is essentially just the same sculpting as the rest of his lower leg. He does, however, though, have an ankle pivot, an ankle rocker, and yeah, the figure does also have toe articulation as well. Being that this is my favorite of the Nolan trilogy suits, I'm actually glad that we waited a little bit longer to get this release. It meant then, when this one was eventually released, we got the benefit of actually having ourselves a fabric cape. I'm now singing the praises of fabric capes. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. For a while, I was really advocating that plastic capes was the way to go. I mean, chalk it really more up to the fact that when I was a collector years ago, everything for me was plastic capes. Every superhero tended to have plastic capes, so I sort of followed suit. And then following suit with all these figures, I just felt that plastic capes was the way to go. Now seeing, though, the benefit of fabric capes, I mean, like, look at how good the fabric cape flows on this figure's body. I do now wish that we are going to be getting ourselves another Dark Knight, maybe a Dark Knight Rises Batman with a slightly different deco and now a fabric cape. That would certainly fit the bill. But in the meantime, though, I'm glad that we got a Batman Begins with a fabric cape. It finishes off what I feel is still the better of the suits from the Nolan trilogy. While the beginning of Bats didn't have a Joker just yet, we did rely on Deckard or Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow. It did have, I still feel, to be a better looking Bat suits. While not being practical or functional, clearly that's the reasoning why Bruce Wayne needed the upgrade. I was really, though, felt that the Dark Knight and Rises suit was a downgrade. It was more practical, and I get that, but it certainly lost a little bit of the look of what Batman needed to be in the first place. I mean, while the mobility was a little lacking on this suit, at least Batman looked more the part. The emblem still on the front of his chest, the sleeker look of the cowl and the cape, it really did make for a much more complete-looking Cape Crusader. Now, this one does have, of course, the benefit of the cloth cape, so while being the downgraded suit, it has at least the upgrade of a fabric cape now instead. From his accessory count, I think it's still high. He has the grapple gun, he has the batarang, which you can see currently in his hand right now, and he also has a hand that has multiple batarangs, although again, none of them can be removed. Having, though, the fabric cape is by far my favorite thing about this figure. And again, I was thinking it was a well worth waiting the time that we did to finally get a Batman with a better looking cape. In the end, though, again, between this one and the one from Dark Knight, I still hope, though, that we're going to be getting a trilogy Batman where it's going to have a fabric cape. But for me, this is so far the favorite of the Nolan films that we've gotten, and I'm glad that we finally can say that we have a Batman Begins Batman on the shelf. What do you guys think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comment section. And I guess probably a better question to be asking you guys, between the Batman Begins suit and the one that we get in Dark Knight and Rises, which do you think is the better look to Batman? No, I'm not just talking about the practicality and how functioning the suit is, but just from the aesthetic, from the look of it, which do you think is the better look to Batman? Let me know what you think. If you guys also in the meantime did enjoy this video, do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? Yeah, I hope so. We may be wrapping up, though, right now, at least Batman's beginning, but that isn't, though, the end of what we're going to be looking at for the Nolan Batman verse, because there's going to be one other figure that's going to be coming your way, and I sort of tipped my hat early into this review of what that figure might be. That review will be coming up this week as well. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.